programme. And if you've not seen it, I would go back and watch it with the bold Graham and the not so bold Dave Smith and Alan Morrison from Celtic by Numbers and Paul Mitchell as well. But we're here until 10 o'clock tonight, looking back at the Rangers game. Don't forget, you can tweet us on Twitter. That's what it's called, tweet. You can get us at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter, or else you can comment on Facebook or YouTube as well. And just comment, and please keep your comments politely. I'm saying that after tonight's performance as well. So match day 1 of the Champions League Group A, it finished Ajax 4, Rangers 0. And we've got a whole hour to go over the game, but your early thoughts of the game, Dave?
Well, first and foremost, it was a comfortable night for. I was making sure I wasn't there. No, first and foremost, it was a comfortable night for Ajax, and kudos to Ajax because they were really, really good. And I mean, Rangers could easily have been battered by more than they did. And it's worrying. I'm not going to lie to you. It's worrying for Rangers. And last season's Europa League finalists arrived with a bit of a hangover from the heroics of last season. Now, they've been a very, very good start to this season, especially beating USG and do very, very well to get to the group stages and one at PSV as well. But there's a difference between PSV and I mean, Dusan Tadic, he made his 50th European appearance for Ajax, and he had a very, very, very good game. Julian Timber, who has been subject to reported interest from Manchester United, and I thought they were very, very good tonight. And Alvarez, I thought he scored a very, very good goal to make it 1-0. Probably 1-0 to Ajax, and then Rangers were kind of all backs to the wall after that, and Ajax went on to be more ruthless and eventually get the job done. But you've got to fear the worst for Van Bronckhorst now. I mean, Rangers did have such as Ryan Kent saw the deflected shot off the post, but you do wonder what happens now. I mean, Ibrox becomes imperative in terms of Rangers' group stage chances now. I mean, Napoli, as of the time of speaking, are absolutely dismantling Liverpool. But Rangers need reaction and fast. And I think tonight is a stark reminder to us all that it's a very, very and tough group for Rangers with Ajax, who arguably have similarities with Napoli and Liverpool. Napoli have obliterated Liverpool. There's no better to say it. And the Liverpool haven't hit the same heights, and Graham will thoroughly acknowledge this himself, but they still carry an euphoria and a threat. So it's an extremely tough group for Rangers, and they didn't start in the best way possible by any stretch of imagination.
Graham, we spoke last night, or sorry, you guys here, I wasn't here last night, about Real Madrid giving Celtic a masterclass. In the second half, you would say.
You're on mute, Michael.
Yep. I knew that was I said, stop playing with my buttons on there. Anyway, it's after 9 o'clock. I can say that. So Real Madrid gave Celtic a masterclass up until, you would say, 50 minutes because Celtic compete well. Would you say that Ajax gave Rangers a masterclass tonight on Champions League night?
For anyone who's not seen the game and you've only seen the scoreline of 4-0 to Ajax, I'll give you the stats for this. Ajax had 71% possession. They had 17 attempts, 9 on target to Rangers 1. And they were absolutely dominant from start to finish. That was an absolute hammering. You look at the game Celtic Rangers on Saturday, and Rangers played exactly the same back four, exactly the same keeper, and they've now lost 8 goals in those 2 games. And tonight, that could have been more. Ajax absolutely hammered them, and I don't think if you're Van Bronckhorst, you can take many positives from that game tonight because they were outclassed from start to finish. And I think as well, if you look at the goals as well, the first goal is horrendous defending. It comes from a corner kick, and there's nobody marking. It's a free header. It's awful. The second goal, slightly unfortunate for James Sands. Not much you can do about it. It's come off his foot and it's into the net. The third goal, I've spoken before as well. I think James Tavernier is an excellent player. He's been a brilliant player for Rangers. I think he's very good going forward, but I think at times defensively he's awful. And again tonight, I thought he was done like a kipper for that third goal. And just all over the pitch, I just thought Ajax were absolutely fantastic. They were so superior to Rangers in every department. And I can tell you now, after 47 minutes, it's Napoli 4, Liverpool 0.
Oof. So Rangers has got a job in the hands and next Tuesday night for Rangers at Ibrox. Dave, you were listening to Van Bronckhorst after the game. What did you have to say?
I'll get on to that in just a minute because I haven't came prepared tonight just yet. But I was going to make a point just before I do. I'll go look up those quotes in just a minute. But one thing I would say to elaborate on Graham's point is over all the talk of Ajax past side and the one that reached the knockout stages of the Champions League last season. Oh, Graham?
I'm here.
No. I thought he was trying to say something there. Anyway, I thought you were saying something different there. Either all the talk about Ajax being a superior force last season has been exaggerated, or also worrying gulf between Rangers and even a moderately successful European side. I mean, Ajax have a good chance of qualifying from the group. Not a spectacular chance, but it is a worrying one, especially for obviously Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. And this is a massive game. Now, lies in wait for Van Bronckhorst at Pittodrie on Saturday because obviously Johnny McFarland's actually came up with a good point I'm going to make in here. Ajax ran 6 kilometres more than Rangers tonight, according to BT Sport. Now, I want to give the viewers some clarification because with all due respect to Graham and Michael, they probably never ran a 6K in their life. And I mean that with tongue in cheek, I may add, but given they had the ball for most of the game, that's very important. And when you look at it, I mean, that just shows you the difference between both sides and the fact that Ajax were far more superior and a lot more in the game. Van Bronckhorst said he was looking for a reaction after the 4-0 defeat to Celtic on Saturday. And this is a Rangers, the team that was defeated as soon as Ajax scored. And that's very much very worrying as far as Rangers are concerned. But and Van Bronckhorst has went and said we want to be in this competition, but it's very, very tough. And it's the full implications of managing a side of that calibre that you know that there's going to be implications that come along your way. And it's not going to be easy by any stretch of imagination. And Bronckhorst is interestingly, I've not got the full transcript yet, but he's very. I'll come back and elaborate on the transcript in a minute. But he's very interestingly came out and said that Rangers can't compete in the Champions League, which I find very interesting, and I think that elaborates to the point we made last night as to the point by William regarding the Scottish sides in the Champions League and the financial gulf. And it's the same here, but then at the same time, you're looking at that, and Rangers have a far more bigger gulf than the other sides in the Champions League. Now, Rangers Review, I know you've been trying to get them involved on this show, Michael, and they actually came out and said what Giovanni Bronckhorst just had to say. He said, we'll get a few of these things tonight. He said, very disappointed. We knew the Champions League would be a high level, and what we faced today. I think it showed throughout the game how good and strong they are. You have to be 100% be ready for the game. You saw everything. He goes quicker in the Champions League. The pressure, the figure on the ball control, the speed of passing is on a really high level. In the first half, couldn't reach that level. We struggled. Every mistake we made got punished by Ajax. it's difficult. When I say that, he was asked, and what you asked him, it's difficult. You don't give space away against Ajax. We gave less space away in the second half because we gave a little too much space away defensively. We went too quick with our opponents who dragged them away to make.
I think we're having a few issues with Dave there. So I don't know what your connection's like tonight, Dave, but you're cutting in and out. I don't know if that was the same for Mr. Duffy there. But I heard bits of what you were saying about Van Bronckhorst. But if I could maybe just go into Graham and we'll come back to Dave in a minute or two, if that's okay. I mean, the warning signs were there for Rangers before Ajax scored. Ajax had a free header from a basic corner kick after 10 minutes, and the warning signs were there for Rangers. And as I say, the first goal came from the exact same corner, and it was the exact same free header as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can train all you want, and I'm sure Van Bronckhorst has done his tactical work, his defensive work, and his defenders letting him down. I mean, again, it's sloppy. You know, it's basic defending. I don't know if they're trying to do zonal. I don't know what they're trying to do. But defensively, they're all over the place. For me, I've not been a massive fan of James Sands so far. I think he looks out of his depth a little bit. I think Connor Golson has been a shadow of the player that he's been. And again, I mean, you look at the 4 goals they lost on Saturday, and you can blame John McLaughlin for probably 3 of them. I don't think McLaughlin's got any chance of the goals tonight. It's just so poor defending, and Broncos has got to be disappointed with that. And it was too easy for Ajax to cut through them at times. They were playing with pace, they were playing with intensity, and Rangers just couldn't get near them. But when you're losing goals from set pieces like they are, that's just poor defending all round. And I mean, I have to say, you're looking at James Sands and Connor Golson having absolutely awful games. You look at the other end, and you've got an ex-Rangers player in Calvin Bassey strolling about the pitch like he owns it, under no pressure at all. And how Rangers could have done with him tonight, because James Sands and Connor Golson, not just them, that whole Rangers defence were absolutely awful.
It must be worrying if you're a Rangers fan, Glenn, because that's 2 big games and you've conceded 8 goals and you've not really worked the keeper.
100%. And now they've got a massive game at Pittodrie on Saturday now, which is going to be huge. I mean, if they were to get beat in that game and Celtic beat Livingston, which you've got to think they will, the gap's 8 points already. And that's a huge gap to pull back to this Celtic side that, as I've said before on the show, are relentless. I don't know what Van Bronckhorst does now, because he's got to somehow turn that Rangers team round that look devoid of confidence. And I mean, one player I talk about all the time on the show again is Ryan Kent. And again tonight, I thought he flattered to deceive. He didn't really create anything.
No,
he looked like he'd only just played the game for the first time. It's just awful. There's just something not quite clicking with that Rangers team just now. But the one thing that Van Bronckhorst has got to do, and I don't know how he does it, is sort that defence out, because they were so poor. And if you look at the 4th goal, I mean, Ryan Jack plays a ridiculous pass. It gets pounced upon and Bergwijn's in. But just all over the pitch, Rangers just look so sloppy defensively. And to concede 8 goals in the last 2 games has a massive concern for Van Bronckhorst. And as I said, that Aberdeen game now becomes huge. And then they play Napoli, it's now Napoli 4, Liverpool 1. Luis Diaz has got to go back. But I don't know what Van Bronckhorst does. They just look so poor just now.
And I suppose touching upon the Napoli game for a minute, Graham, I only saw a wee bit before I was preparing for the show, doing my homework, as I always do before the show. And if you believe that, you believe in Santa. Napoli, even though they went a goal up, it's the same with Ajax. They could have got a goal before they got the first one. So Rangers has got a job in the hands next week at Ibrox.
Napoli have been excellent. I watched the first half and they were absolutely superb. Liverpool couldn't get near them. Although defensive Liverpool were awful, Joe Gomez and Van Dijk have been terrible. and I'm a massive fan of Van Dijk. Not so much of Joe Gomez, is 25, and for me, he's not learning lessons. I think he's very poor defensively. But all over the pitch, Napoli have been first to every ball. They've won every battle, and they should probably be about 5 or 6 up. They've been the far better side, and Liverpool look a shadow of the team they were last season. Yes, they've got injuries, we all know that, but they've still got a very good side out there, and they just look all over the place. And Napoli, I mean, they'll go to Ibrox next week, absolutely full of confidence. And I mean, this is going to be a huge game for Rangers next week, but they've got Aberdeen to come, so they've got 2 big games to come. And I said in the group chat, I think Van Bronckhorst, maybe harshly, I think Van Bronckhorst could be under huge pressure if they lose on Saturday and then get beat by Napoli next week.
Got to come back to Dave in a minute and see if his connection is any better than a 10-minute delay. He's only up there, mate, as well.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can hear. Yeah, the connection's get better then. I just wanted to tell people, Dave, that they can get in touch with the show on Twitter, at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. Dave, I wanted to ask you, before you get cut off there, did you say that, well, obviously you can tell us again what Gio said after the game, but did you say that one of the lines he said that we are not good enough for the Champions League? Because if he said that, well, you know, the team isn't going to like that, and also there's going to be a kind of like divide in the dressing room, and it smells as though it's kind of Neil Lennon all over again. Would you agree with that, Dave?
Yeah, to my understanding, he said that to BT Sport. Is that okay, by the way, Michael? Aye.
Yeah, that's perfect, mate. Yeah.
Aye. Apologies to the viewers out there. He did say that to the guys at BT Sport, and to my understanding, by the way. And I think you could have said it in a different time, make sure that it wasn't a PR disaster, both externally and internally. So, I'm just going to elaborate on what Van Bronckhorst said, because obviously I got caught off there, but he did go and say the performance wasn't good, the players are committed, they want to play the way we want, they want to fight, they want to work. But it looks like against an opponent like Ajax, when you're not organised the way you should be, it's going to be really tough, because the level we're used to and the level we have to reach in the Champions League is a big difference. He was asked, do you feel you've been backed enough at this level to compete in the Champions League? He's like, to compete in the Champions League, you need to get hundreds of millions. Otherwise, you can't compete. Look at the squads we're facing. Ajax sold players for over 200 million. Liverpool as well. For us to compete with that is too much to ask. We want to compete. We want to compete with the squad we have, and the squad we're capable of making. We knew it was going to be tough, and it was today.
I don't know if anybody saw Gio's press conference, right? I was watching it today, and going back on Dave's point, Graham, one of the journalists asked him, were you not disappointed that you never brought a player in the last day of the window? And basically he kind of says, nope, and that was it. So, you know, I think Van Bronckhorst inside, he would be a very, very unhappy man.
I think Dave said it before on this show that what managers say to the press and what they think behind closed doors is very different. And I think he's probably said that to the media, but I think deep down he will be disappointed he's not signed anyone. I think it was clearly they need to strengthen in certain areas. Obviously, John Shooter's still out. They need another defender. And I still think they're lacking in certain areas. I think midfield, I don't think they had anything tonight that was particularly impressive. I think up front, Cholak again tonight didn't really have a lot of service. Morelos was on the bench, but if you look at both Celtic squads and both Rangers squads, that Celtic squad yesterday against Real Madrid, they were bringing guys off the bench like Turnbull. They had Maeda. You've got guys like, Giakoumakis who could come in from when Kyogo's not there. They've got a very good squad. That Rangers squad, for me, isn't at the same level. And I think Van Bronckhorst would have wanted to strengthen that, absolutely. He'll be frustrated he hasn't brought anyone in, but he'll have to say to the media, oh no, I'm fine with what we've got. But deep down, I think a lot of Rangers fans will be thinking, why do we not sign anyone? Because that squad for me is still lacking.
Do you think as well, Graham, when you were talking about that there, the difference between Celtic and Rangers, and I know we could say that both sides of the Glasgow divide basically get humped, to use a good Scottish word, but do you think the difference is Celtic created 3 or 4 different chances against Real Madrid, went in at 0-0, whereas tonight Ajax went in at 3-0 at half time. Oils, they could have went in, they could have picked the score at half time. Do you think like that's the difference? That's the levels at the moment?
I mean, Real Madrid are European champions. Ajax are a very good side, but as myself and Dave mentioned on the show last night, for the first 50 minutes last night, I thought Celtic were excellent. I thought they competed really well. They created chances. They were on the front foot for long spells in that game. You just look at the chances Celtic had yesterday. You know, Callum McGregor hits the post. You've got an effort from Abada in the first half. You've got a massive missed opportunity from Maeda at the start of the second half. Celtic created chances against a very, very good Madrid side. Rangers tonight, I know they're away from home, but they were outclassed. Probably up until Madrid got the first goal yesterday, I still thought Celtic did well. They weren't outclassed massively in spells, but Rangers tonight, right from the first whistle, were totally outclassed, and that was the massive difference.
Yeah, Dave, would you go along with Graham there?
Yeah, so I mean, Rangers were second best all over the park tonight, and as Graham said there, that was, and I mean, this was always going to be a big ask for Rangers. I mean, I don't think Rangers are Champions League material, and as much as Giovanni Van Bronckhorst can't be coming out in the public or shouldn't be coming out in the public domain and saying it, I disagree thoroughly that he has come out in the public domain and said it. I do agree with him though. I don't think that is capable of being Champions League material. I think that was found out on Saturday when Celtic demolished or obliterated Rangers. I mean, Celtic were really good, especially in the first half on Saturday. And Celtic had the credentials of Champions League in my honest eyes. Now, you can argue what's the difference between the two. I think Celtic have a lot more forward areas in terms of Jota and Kyogo and Maeda. That was it. Pardon me, Maeda. I nearly forgot who. They've got a lot more in the forward areas in comparison to Rangers. Rangers have got Kent. Now the latter has started the season very, very well for Van Bronckhorst, but when you look at the dimensions between the two, Celtic are far more superior in the forward areas, and also you see it for yourselves on Saturday, gents. Connor Goldson, all the site on a Monday morning, atrocious.
Do you think that the difference is as well money?
Well, I think I get caught off when I try and make the point about this earlier on, Michael. Me and Graham had this conversation last night regarding the financial gulf. Now, there's a financial gulf between Ajax and Rangers. Same time, there's a financial gulf between Celtic and Rangers, and St Mirren, Dundee United, Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, Ross County, and the rest of Scottish football. I mean,
you
what's
just have to
happened
look at
to Celtic and Rangers?
Yeah, I mean, you just have sorry, Dave. I was just going to say that's equivalent of Celtic Smith's game against Livingston.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry. I misunderstood your question there. Yeah, I mean, obviously Celtic have Livingston next, and I mean that's the thing. I mean, Celtic's financial outlay will far outweigh Livingston's, but Livingston have been renowned for going to Celtic Park in the past and getting a result. I was surprised if this is the case on Saturday as well, because I mean, Livingston are the type of side, especially with Marvin Bartley involved. Marvin after the drew 0-0 last year. And Marvin Bartley, without giving too much detail away, obviously, had a lot of information there on the setup and the structure and how they combated the likes of your Jotas and how they combated the likes of your forward players. It had been a bad up front at that precise moment in time because Kyogo was out injured at that moment. So that showed how teams like Livingston can go to the East and get a result. But yeah, there's a difference between Ajax and Rangers. There's a difference between Celtic, Rangers, and Livingston.
Yeah, there's a big jump there, Graham, isn't there?
100%. I mean, Celtic are going from playing the European champions on Tuesday night to playing Livingston on Saturday. It's a massive, massive jump. And I mean, I just think we were asked a question yesterday, as Dave rightly said on the group chat. We were asked a question yesterday about, does that result yesterday put Scottish football in a poor light? I don't think it does. You're playing against European champions. Anyone's going to struggle against Real Madrid. I just think last night, I honestly said on the show yesterday, as you will have listened to, I thought Celtic competed really well against Real Madrid. They really competed brilliantly. Tonight, it was complete night and day. Rangers were off the pace. They were so poor defensively. And I don't know what Van Bronckhorst does now, because I don't think that squad right now is strong enough. You know, what changes does he make for Saturday? And that game against Aberdeen now becomes huge. You know what Aberdeen are going to be like? Aberdeen and Pittodrie are going to be really up for this game. And if Van Bronckhorst loses that on the back of these last two defeats, I honestly think he could be under massive pressure from Rangers fans.
Dave, do you think as well that the Rangers fans would be upset? Okay, they get beat, or was they 4-0, and it could have been more than in the first half. I think Ajax took their foot off the pedal a wee bit in the second half, but the game was over anyway. But would you say that the Rangers fans would be a bit annoyed if, if you know, let's just say in hindsight, the game finished 2-1, 2-0 or whatever. But you know, if Rangers put in a bit of a fight in the game, as it were, like a decent shot of goal, they never had that. And I think that's a small difference between looking back at last night's game. And okay, I mean, Celtic get well beat in the second half, we all know that. But like, at least Celtic found a bit of fight, you would say, and over the last tonight's game and maybe Saturday's game as well. Rangers didn't put in any fight, any kind of hard tackles, any winning balls and stuff like that.
I think it's a concerning factor for Rangers, and the fact that they've dished 8 goals without reply over the last 2 games. I think it's a worry that they've not scored and conceded 8. Now, I thoroughly acknowledge that Celtic are a good side. I thoroughly acknowledge that Ajax are a good side. But I think if you were to ask one Rangers fan, I think they'd be telling you that Rangers haven't got in the last 2 games, both Saturday and Wednesday. Pardon me. And I think, excuse me, God. And I think Aberdeen Saturday at Pittodrie will give us a lot of answers, just in the aspect of, is this Rangers side got resilience? Is this Rangers side got character? Is this Rangers side got desire? Does Giovanni Van Bronckhorst make changes? Does he make 2 or 3 changes and give 2 or 3 players a chance to get their away team for a Napoli game? Does he change the whole team about with an impetus on Tuesday, but still have a strong to try and go beat Aberdeen on Saturday? There's a lot of questions in here as far as I'm concerned, and the fact that they've crumbled, they crumbled on Saturday, they crumbled tonight. An apple crumble is a very, very good thing in East End of Glasgow right now.
Do you think as well that am I right in thinking, Dave, that next few league games for Rangers away from home, so the big test will begin on Saturday and that will begin the week after, or is that the international break? But I think they've got a game at Tynecastle coming up as well. Am I right in thinking Rangers has only got one league game at home coming up against Dundee United, and the rest get away from home?
Yes.
Yeah, Aberdeen this Saturday, Napoli on Tuesday. They have the home, of course, then Champions League again, and then Hearts at Tynecastle.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, it's going to be quite interesting because, you know, but yeah, I mean, let's speak about the individual players. I mean, the likes of Bassey, you know, like he was a good player for Rangers, and now, as you say, Glenn, he was walking in the park against his former team tonight.
I'm just going to bring up something you mentioned a minute ago, Michael, about fight. Now, at half time today, and I've got the comments here, Ali McCoist at half time said, "That's really poor, really, really poor. There's no spirit, doesn't look as though there's any fight. There's certainly a lack of belief, if no belief at all." Now, that just shows that's an ex Rangers legend, and he's talking about lack of fight, and that showed all over the pitch. And Calvin Bassey absolutely strolled that game. He was under no pressure at all in that game. Rangers offered nothing in that game.
I think I'll keep going back to this point because I remember you say this point in the show a few times, Dave, about a few teams in the top league. You know, you need a player like McGregor, like you know, whoever else, to make that cleansing tackle to let them know that, oh, you know, you're in the game, you're here. But in terms of the last, you would say, 2 games for Rangers, there's no one like that in the team, Graham, and that must be a big concern to Gio and to the fans.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there is a lack of fight and a lack of spirit there, and I don't know why that is. And I think it all stems from me for that Celtic game on Saturday. I mean, that's the one game that you have to show fight and spirit. Rangers fans demand that, and there was nothing. And then tonight, they go and do exactly the same thing again. And there's something missing for that Rangers team. There is that lack of fight in there. I think Glenn Kamara is a really good footballer. But again, he was pretty poor. Lundstrom, I think, is a decent player. But again, I thought he was pretty poor. Just all through the team, you could pick on any individual and just say they were poor. But there's just a lack of something on that Rangers team. And the one thing, I've said this before, the one thing you should never lack is fight. And Rangers, you were right. Rangers didn't have that tonight.
I mean, Dave, do you go to teams like Rangers keep playing big European games and all from derbies, or the Glasgow derbies, as some people like to refer to? That's how you sign for big clubs, you know, to play in these big occasions. And they've had 2 big occasions now in the space of, 3 or 4 days, and it just didn't happen for Rangers.
I was also just thinking, as you were speaking there, Michael, it's got a feel to it right now, where they go from a massive high to an absolute low in a short space of time. and yeah, it just has that impression on it, doesn't it? I mean, Rangers were absolutely brilliant last year in the last season. Obviously, got to the final, the Europa League, and got to the final of the Scottish Cup as well. Did well win the Scottish, obviously, and we're just unlucky penalties against Frankfurt. And I think this is a big wake up call. I think reality check's a little bit harsh in the whole context, but I think it is a big wake up call as far as Rangers are concerned. But when you look at it, I mean, Rangers have been getting things their own way, either through luck or through getting their own way, or winning games because they've shown a little bit of mentality, character, resilience, and everything that's attached to winning games of football that have been missing of late. And I think somebody like Joe Aribo has been pivotal to collapsing big world for this situation, but missing somebody like Aribo has been pivotal to the deterioration in how Rangers have evolved over the last couple of weeks.
Now, I know if you're a Rangers fan and you're watching this, you might be throwing stuff at the computer, what I'm going to say, and that's grim. But 3-0 at half time, and you're thinking, oh, it could get worse for Rangers, even though I was bad enough. But you would say that, you know, Rangers were lucky not to come away from the Amsterdam Arena tonight, not being beaten by 6 or 7.
To be honest, when that first half ended, I think if you're an Ajax fan, it came at the wrong moment because you were so much on top.
Yep.
And I think that break just let Rangers resettle a little bit. They made changes at half time, but I mean, Ajax was still the better team. But I just think half time came at the wrong moment for Ajax because they were so much on top. And at half time, I genuinely thought this could be 5 or 6 here again because Ajax was so dominant. They eventually get the fourth goal, but I think you're right what you said earlier about Ajax taking the foot off the gas. I think they did, and I think it's understandable because at 3-0 you think the game's done. You know, we can just relax here. But Ajax always felt for me that they could go up another level if they wanted to, and Rangers just couldn't react to that. And I think something you guys mentioned earlier about Van Bronckhorst talking about we can't compete with Ajax, Rangers, and Napoli, Ajax, Napoli, and Rangers, Ajax, Napoli, and Liverpool. Think how fans of other Scottish teams feel when we go up against Rangers and Celtic. We're always told our Celtic and Rangers should join the English league and stuff because you know other teams in Scotland can't compete. Well, there's your reason: money. You know, Hearts have got money for the Conference League, which is great for us. But you know, we cannot compete with Celtic and Rangers. We maybe a couple of times maybe have. But over the seasons, you know what's going to happen. Celtic and Rangers just get away from everyone else. And I said before, weeks ago, I still believe that Celtic and Rangers will finish 20, 24 points ahead of the team in third place. I mean, that's not a great look for Scottish football again, is it?
No. And I suppose that's how we go and get a lot of media coverage, but that's for a separate show coming up in 2 months' time and all that. But, I mean, yeah, Graham made a brilliant point there about half-time came at a bad time for Ajax because you were good. Ajax were smithing for more goals. Rangers were just dying to go and aggressing them. They're kind of aggressing them at half-time. And, you know, if the ref had gone in more time, it could have been 4-5 before half-time.
Yeah, Rangers were screaming for a half-time whistle, and this is where the mentality deteriorated in a short space of time. And it probably was a little bit of a hangover from Saturday, if we're going to be brutally honest about it, because Saturday, obviously, it just wasn't good enough. They were pitiful all over the place. And was the Celtic ran rampant, and then that obviously continued on to tonight. The Rangers were being out in the public domain saying everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine, but generally, you get that pressure, pardon me, attached, which they're understandable has to be, but at the same time as well, you can tell that things weren't in the best frame of mind, and obviously Ajax sniffed blood and got the goals out of the doors and got the job done. It was Saturday, in all fairness for Rangers, where the opposing team starts in the front foot, the opposing team gets good areas, gets into weak pockets, asks questions of opposition defenders, and hits teams imminently. And that's exactly what proved to be the case again tonight.
You're listening to the locker room on Indie Life Radio and Independence Live. If you're lucky enough to watch our wonderful faces, we're on the Champions League special. We'll be here every night. Just moving into you guys because we'll be spending a lot of time together. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, because of course we've got Graham's beloved Hearts in the Conference League tomorrow night, and of course we'll be on there with the top team again. We're on from 8 tomorrow night, so put that up in your fridge and try and remember the time. Not like me, because I forgot the time, because you know I'm all over the shop with different shows, different days, different times, and all that. But I will be here tomorrow night, so make sure you're here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. You can comment on anything you're hearing tonight on Facebook Live or YouTube. Just comment below, and you can also comment on Twitter at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. So 4-0 to Ajax if you've just come in. Graham, we've been trying to work this one out for about half an hour now, but I don't know if anybody's had the answer yet. Where does Rangers go from here? sorry to give you that question, by the way, but Dave said, no, don't give me it, give Duffy it. So, it's nice to be nice.
They go to Pataudry on Saturday. That's where they go from here.
Yeah.
And I mean,
no, the airport first.
I mean, I don't know what Van Bronckhorst does now, because I don't know what changes he makes for Saturday. You think he has to freshen it up, but I mean, he made 3 changes at halftime today. He could have changed another 3 or 4, to be honest. He brings Matondo on, he brings Leon King on, and he brings Ryan Jack on. It didn't really make that much difference, to be honest. So I think Van Bronckhorst has got a massive job now to lift these players. Maybe Aberdeen, I mean, is that the best place to go when you're just on the back of 2 massive defeats? Probably not. But maybe it is one of these games that Rangers have to be focused now. If this was like a run-of-the-mill game against, no disrespect, but like Dundee United at Ibrox, it might be an easier game for them. But I think going to Pataudry, you've got to be at it from the first whistle. Honestly, it's such a difficult game for Rangers on Saturday now. They have to win that now. As I said, I would expect Celtic to beat Livingston on Saturday. This is a huge game for Van Bronckhorst. They cannot afford to lose this.
Dave, we were talking about money and all that, and we were talking about Van Bronckhorst wasn't very happy at the press conference, but as Graham alluded to there, does it not show you the strength and depth of the Rangers squad when they bring on Leon King at halftime?
Money. Must be funny in a rich man's world. Yeah, I think that goes to show you where Rangers...
I've got to apologise to the audience if anyone's switching off. No, it's not Abbott, it's Dave.
No, I think that tells you everything you need to know. I mean, the fact that Rangers are relying on players such as Leon King, when they could have got another Leon Balogun, that just tells you everything you need to know. And I mean, Rangers, you guys have kind of alluded to it already in the show, but Rangers could easily strengthen the squad by signing a couple of midfielders and a striker. For me, I kind of hinted at it earlier on, I don't think they'll replace Joe Rebo. That was incredibly frustrating we're concerned, but also, I still feel they need somebody to be alongside Alfredo Morelos to be sure that Kovac is not carrying a lot of responsibility, and goals and Sands all over us defensively. So, for me, I think there is a strength and depth issue, and I think the past 4 days have told us that Rangers aren't the side that a lot of people perceive them to be.
Do you think as well, guys, maybe this is just me talking about it, but I was in the paper on, when was it, Sunday night, that the Rangers fans were demanding a meeting with the directors at Rangers. Now, I don't think the Rangers fans would be demanding a meeting with the directors if Rangers went to Parkhead and basically would get well beat. If they got beat at Parkhead, say 2-1, and Rangers put up a decent fight, I don't think they would be calling for that meeting with the directors. Obviously it's my opinion, but am I right in saying that, Graham, or am I just totally wide of the mark there?
I don't know. I think it's also the fact that if you look at last season, they were 3-0 down at Celtic Park again last season, and a lot of Rangers fans, I think that Van Bronckhorst hasn't learned his lessons from that game. To be 3-0 down again at Celtic Park on Saturday, and now they were 3-0 down again at halftime today. People will think Van Bronckhorst isn't learning, but the thing is, Rangers in Europe last season were outstanding. They got to the final and nobody was questioning anything that Van Bronckhorst did. And now this season, on the back of a couple of horrendous results, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of folk now questioning Van Bronckhorst, but that's management for you. You're only ever one defeat away from people saying, "Oh, you should be sacked." But the fact that they've now had 2 awful results in the space of such a short space of time, and the fact that they haven't strengthened on deadline day when that squad, I think, still needed work, then I can understand why Rangers fans were maybe questioning things. And I think I did a thing on Sunday, I think it was, or it might have been Friday. I did a thing where I put a list of all the people, all the players that teams have signed, and Hibs had signed 16 players. They were the most. Rangers only had 7. They were the least effective in the transfer market. So I can understand in a way why Rangers fans were so disappointed at the fact that they didn't sign anyone else.
And obviously, I know the night was bad for Rangers, but VAR went against them as well. Dave, obviously, that wouldn't change the outcome of the game. But even the goal get put to VAR, it was ruled offside.
Yep, that's just how disappointing and how it's a huge hair remover. I mean, it just wasn't that Rangers was night, and they have to move on from it. And Michael, could give me some positive views before we move on. Obviously, the UK Supreme Court has today granted the SNP permission to intervene in the case of Scotland's right to hold an independent referendum. What a day! It could potentially be a great occasion in a year's time. We're 46 minutes in, we haven't raised that yet, so I just thought I'd get that out there, especially because of the show we're on.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dave. And my bottle of champagne is at the corner of the door, and I will drink that on the way out, and I will put on my kilt. Anyway, back to matters present then, and yes, thanks for that, Dave. I mean, at the beginning of the game, Graham, you could tell Rangers weren't really up for the game.
I don't know if I would say that. I just think when you're playing the same defence and goalkeeper that lost 4 goals at Celtic Park, I think if I'm a Rangers fan, I'm a bit disappointed about that. As I say, I don't know what else they could have done, but I think when you've got that same kind of back 5 that lost 4 goals and were so poor against Celtic, you're hoping for some kind of reaction, and they never got one. I mean, I'll be honest. I thought McGregor might have started tonight just because of what happened on Saturday. John McLaughlin's now conceded 8 goals in the last 2 games. Tonight, he was faultless. He couldn't do anything about them. But I just think defensively, we keep going back to this. Defensively, Rangers are so vulnerable. And I think on Saturday, Aberdeen with Bojan Majowski in the form that he's in could cause Rangers a lot of problems. And I think the first goal on Saturday is going to be crucial. If Aberdeen get it, Rangers are going to start to think, we just can't stop conceding goals here. I think to say that Rangers went up for it is harsh. I just think that Ajax were so good. And Rangers, as you spoke about earlier, just didn't have the fight, and they lost every single individual battle.
Graham, how does Van Bronckhorst pick up the team now after 2 big games and then another big game on Saturday away to Aberdeen?
You would like to think that Rangers have players in that team that won't need lifted, but it's going to be hard. You know, you have come off the back of 2 really poor results and 2 poor performances as well. I think what you said earlier, I think you're right. Had they lost tonight narrowly, but they put up a decent fight, I think Rangers fans would have said, you know what, fair enough. We're just, I guess, a good side, but we're just unlucky. But it's the fact that the last 2 games, they have been so poor. They've been outfought, they've been outplayed, they've been outclassed, really. And that's got to be the massive frustration. And as I keep on saying, to go to Pataudry on the back of these last 2 games is the last place you want to go. But they've got to do something quickly. I would expect, I think Van Bronckhorst will make 3 or 4 changes to that side, but he could change that whole team because they were so poor. And I would not be surprised if Alfredo Morelos starts on Saturday.
I know it's not McLaughlin's fault for any of the goals tonight because, to be honest with you, I know it finished 4-0, but he still made 1 or 2 crucial saves in the game. But what would the Rangers fans think of Van Bronckhorst to change the goalkeeper now? Is it too late for him to do that, Dave?
I don't think it is. I mean, you use a squad for a purpose, and people forget that Rangers have 3 goalkeepers in their books, or 3 notable goalkeepers in their books. That's John McLaughlin, who has been steady, but has error in a few games where he's been accustomed to errors. Tonight, maybe not so much, but definitely on Saturday, and definitely against USG. You've got Al McGregor, experienced. I'm seeing a lot of pressure from pundits that Al McGregor is the type of goalkeeper that is not past it, but the type of goalkeeper that's ready to retire. I disagree with that vehemently. I think Al McGregor needs a game in order for him to go and make sure it isn't an experiment, in order for him to go and say, I'm still a decent enough goalkeeper, I'm a goalkeeper that's experienced within football, and I'm a goalkeeper that can still play at the highest level, especially in Scotland. I don't know, but obviously Champions League or European football for that specific matter. And then you've got Robin McCrory as well, a goalkeeper that seems to be within the periphery of the Rangers first team all the time and kept a clean sheet against Celtic, and I might be horribly wrong here. I think he kept the clean sheet team as well last year in the Europa League, which tells you everything you need to know about the quality of goalkeeper you've got. But nobody seems to know the extent into why he's not even near the bench for Rangers, especially with John McLaughlin having a few performances and Al McGregor well near getting a place in the starting lineup as of yet. So, yeah, it's a very interesting one to say the least.
Graham, and I know we've been talking about the game tonight, but we've been making references to Saturday's game as well. And I know that you put in the tagline, do you think Van Bronckhorst gets under pressure? But do you think if Rangers goes up there and gets a point on Saturday against Aberdeen, and we know what the rivalry is like between the two sides, whether the game's at Ibrox or Picogly, the Rangers fans won't buy that because that's just 1 point out of the last 3 games.
I mean, Dave mentioned the fixtures that they've got coming up. Rangers' next 5 games are away to Pittodrie, at home to Napoli, at home to Dundee United, away to Hearts, and away to Liverpool. 5 huge fixtures there. And, to go to Pittodrie on Saturday, a game that you're never going to get it easy, and especially with this Aberdeen side now that, I think Jim Goodwin's done a really good job there. There'll be I would imagine, a full house at Pittodrie on Saturday. It's going to be such an important game for Rangers. I mean, when you're at Celtic and Rangers, you can't afford to draw. You have to win every game. And especially now that, obviously, Rangers dropped points against Hibs. They've now lost against Celtic. Celtic at the moment are a juggernaut. They're not getting beat. They have to win on Saturday for me. They really do need to get 3 points there. I don't think a draw is going to help. So they have to go in and win. But that Jim Goodwin side, they're a very good side, Aberdeen. And I keep on saying, Bojan Majowski is one of the informed strikers in the league just now. And I can tell you the matches ended in Naples. Napoli 4, Liverpool 1.
Oh, Dave, your reaction to that game? I never saw the whole of the second half, but I presume that it was the equivalent of Ajax against Rangers. Napoli just took the foot off the pedal a wee bit.
Always Liverpool scored. No, good 3 points for Napoli. It's not a good look from a Rangers perspective, and it's funny how a week can change things in football. It'll have to be a big week for both sides in order for there to be a turning of the tides, because I'd be surprised if Rangers are as poor as they were tonight and they were to go and beat Napoli at Ibrox. Now, we've seen many fantastic nights at Ibrox, especially over the recent years, with the European exploits that Rangers have managed to inherit in the last few years. But I think this is going to be one too many as far as Giovanni is concerned.
I will just say, by the way, one of my mates messaged me a minute ago to say Klopp getting sacked next. I will just say to Stuart, There's not a chance that's happening. Jurgen Klopp's got enough credit in the bank. This season's been a poor start for Liverpool, but there's enough credit at the bank there, so no chance.
We've got about 5 minutes left on the show tonight. Let's get maybe, obviously, we'll be here tonight, tomorrow night, so to speak about the jump tarts, hearts, under the floodlights at the famous old Tynecastle. I'm looking forward to the game. Give us a wee insight into the Hearts, the game tomorrow night, and how do you think it will go?
I was asked earlier on, would I take a draw? I would say yes. Livingston on Saturday, we were awful. I hope Robbie picks his strongest side. I've said before, we're not good enough to rest players for league games and these games. European nights are brilliant, don't get me wrong, but the league, as Dave has said numerous times, is the bread and butter. I would be picking our strongest side tomorrow. Disappointed that Robert Snodgrass is ineligible because obviously he only signed yesterday. I think he'd have been a really good player for us. I think it's a very good signing anyway. But you've got to start Lawrence Shankland. You've got to start Barry Mackay. You've got to start Alan Forrest. You have to play your strongest side. We do have injuries, and I know that Robbie said earlier that Craig Halkett is still out, which is a massive blow because he's been a huge miss. But we've got to use the Tynecastle atmosphere, get the crowd on side. If we can play like we did against Zurich in the home leg, where we were absolutely brilliant, we just couldn't score, we've got a chance. And a big boost for me tomorrow is the fact that Mesut Ozil isn't playing for Istanbul tomorrow. He's out, so that's a bit of a boost. But Istanbul have still got quality. But Hearts have got to use the crowd. We've got to use the home advantage. If we can win, absolutely fantastic. But right now, I would snap the hand off for a draw.
And I suppose that, Graham, from a Edinburgh Glasgow point of view, you could beat Glasgow 1-0 because Celtic and Rangers has got beaten match day one, and if Hearts even picks up a point, you would say you've got one over in Celtic and Rangers.
My worry is Celtic have lost 3-0, Rangers have lost 4-0. My worry is that Hearts might lose 5-0. I hope that doesn't happen, of course.
Or even 2-0.
Well, there is that as well. But I just think we have a chance tomorrow. We're at home. We have to use that home advantage. We then play St Mirren on Sunday at Tynecastle. So a couple of big games coming up. But I think tomorrow, it's not a free hit. But European games are, they're bonuses for me. It's great to be in there, but the league is the bread and butter. But if we can get something tomorrow, and then we go into the game against RFS next week, where I think we should be taking 3 points off, it'll be a great start. But we have to try and take something tomorrow, give us a bit of confidence.
Come back to the Rangers game tonight. If you're just turning on or switching on, Ajax 4, Rangers 0, and they were outclassed for the 90 minutes. Dave, tonight.
Yeah, disappointing even for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's side, and they've got a work to learn between now and next week, but they've also got a work to learn between now and Saturday as well.
Yeah, no big games coming up for Rangers and Celtic and Hearts, and of course we'll be on tomorrow night. Graham will be within his Hearts script. Maybe that's just a random guess, I don't know. But we'll be on at 8:00, and we have another special guest on the show tomorrow night. No, it's not Dave. Dave is having the night off, I think. Dave, are you about tomorrow night, or I can't remember?
No, I've got a media event tomorrow. Just a wee shout out on that, actually, if I can. It's a media event that Youth Football Scotland are doing, interviewing all the kids' teams. So I'm looking forward to doing all the interviews with the players and managers involved. And obviously, I'll get a few wee exclusives for the show on Friday, perhaps.
Yeah, it'll be good to see you back on Friday, Dave. Don't forget, we'll be talking about Friday. Well done, Dave. You set me up nicely there. We'll be on between 5 and 7 with a preview show on Friday, and back on Sunday afternoon between 3 and 5. The European football continues tomorrow night with Hearts, and of course we'll be back next week. Thanks to Graham, thanks to Dave. We'll do it all again tomorrow night here on Indie Live and Independence Live at 8 o'clock after the Hearts game from Ken Castle. Good night.
It's Champions League time once again, and you can catch up with what's been happening in the games by tuning in to the Locker Room specials on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. Remember, the Locker Room